Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Good evening, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the February edition of the Town of Kent Zoning Board of Appeals. Before we proceed further, please join me in
pledging allegiance to the flag of our country.
I pledge allegiance
To
to
the flag
of the
of the United States of America,
and to the republic
to the republic
which it stands,
for which it stands,
one
One
nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty
liberty,
for all.
and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, the first application up on the agenda is Elidio Bastro, 11 Marshall Drive. Elidio is seeking a variance for a shed, 38-foot rear and 16-foot side variance. I will, Mr. Bastro, are you with us tonight? Is anyone representing Mr. Bastro here with us tonight? Okay, we shall move along.
Is
hang
that
on,
him?
I think he's there. He's
Yeah,
just
is that
trying to
him in the
figure out how to
center?
get it.
Okay. I'm looking for, I don't see it here.
I think it's on mute at the moment.
Oh, now you can hear me. I'm here.
Okay,
Here you are. Here you
Sorry
are.
about that.
Okay, so Mr. Bastro, why don't you again tell us why you're here this evening?
Well, I'm here because we installed a shed in the back. Again, being a first-time homeowner, we didn't know what to do, but we're trying to get a variance. It is installed, and it's 4 feet on one side and 12 on another.
Okay,
And we're looking to legalize it.
okay. I'll open it up to the board for comment, please. Okay, does not appear to be any commentary from the board. I myself really have no issues with this application. Do I have a motion to approve?
I just want to ask Mr. Bastos, did you collect the return receipts, the green stubs from the notification?
Yes, I did, sir.
Okay, so pending the chairman's decision, you'll need to bring those to the building inspector.
He already has them in his head. He already has them.
Great. Go ahead, Gordon. I'm sorry.
Great. Do I have a motion to approve this application?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great, Mr. Bastro. You can follow up with the building department.
Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Have a
Have a
good.
great night.
God bless you guys. Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Good night.
Okay, next application up is Richard Gesaldi, 21 Deer Run Court. Mr. Gesaldi, are you with us, sir?
You're there, Mr. Gisaldi, but you need to unmute your phone.
How's that?
There you
Okay, good.
So, Mr. Gesaldi, why don't you tell us why you're here tonight?
Well, several years ago, I hired a contractor to build a patio in my backyard. And I told him to get the building permits and follow all the variances. And he said, you don't need a permit because it's a patio. I said, okay, not knowing any better. And apparently he didn't follow the regulations. And there are 2 walls that are in excess of the 36-inch height limit. So I've applied for a variance for those.
Okay, sir. With that in mind, I'll open it up to the board for commentary.
What was that?
No, I'm opening it up to the board. for commentary.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, we reviewed the photos of that, Gordon. Personally, I have no issue.
I'd like to say something because I'm a neighbor and that patio and fire pit is right on our property line. And
Can you please give us your name first and your address?
sure. Yep, my name is Tracy Kane and I'm at 37 Chief Nimham.
Was that, I'm sorry, 37, Chief?
37 Chief Nimham Drive.
Yep, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to voice a concern that I had because it is on our property line. And yes, it was previously done and we didn't realize just how close it was to the property line until we took down our dead trees. And now my concern with this is when we plant new trees this spring, it's right near a fire pit. And I'm wondering how that's going to affect us now.
Okay, if you would please repeat, ma'am, your plantings, is that what you said?
Yes, we're going to be working with Kent Nursery and we're going to be planting trees to replace the dead ones that we took down. And with this large structure right on the property line like that, now we have to go back a little bit more. And not only that, but there are these trees now that are going to be planted next to this big structure and the fire pit.
Well, now what kind of trees are
How
they?
long ago did you take the trees down?
We took them down this summer. In August, I think it was, of this summer or July. It was in the summer of 2021.
And how long has the patio been there and you've been using the fire pit, Mr. Gerald?
About 4 or 5 years.
Has there been any issue with the trees being that close to it in the past?
No, I have trimmed the tree branches that were over my property line. So there is nothing above it.
Did it, and let me ask this to your neighbor, Tracy, I believe it was. Was there any issue with the trees over the last 4 years with him having fires in the pit?
Well, they've been dead trees that we just took down. So we really didn't see what was going on until those trees were taken down.
What type of trees are these? Are they evergreens? Are they, what are they?
The dead ones, they were mostly, I think they were maple and oak.
No, I mean, the ones you're replacing with.
Oh, I'm going to be replacing them with the arbor vitae, the screening trees.
Okay. Now, as I recall,
Yeah,
that that fire pit is enclosed by a stone enclosure, correct?
Yes, that's correct. It has a wall around the entire patio.
So I really I don't see how it would become an issue with the walls. I mean, if the fire pit, if the walls weren't there acting as somewhat of a barrier, it would seem to me that the heat would channel itself straight up, not side to side. Of course, if there was any encroachment onto Mr. Gisoldi's property line, then of course then those areas would be harmed.
Okay, and what about
I
any?
believe the concern was you said you had to move them back a little bit closer towards the retaining wall. Is that correct?
No, we're going to have to be moving them back more on our property now because the way that the wall is, it's like right on the line.
Right, but you did have previous knowledge. I mean, that wall's been there for several years.
Right, it's hidden behind the trees.
Yeah, but you knew it was there.
Yeah, but not, I didn't know how large that was or where it was with respect to our property line.
Okay.
And I think the fire pit, as I'm looking at it, is further in on that patio, which still is, even though it looks like the border of the patio itself is close to the line. Yes, very close. The pit is further in by like 15
But
feet.
the actual pit is further in.
Right? Like 15 feet, or is that right?
Yeah. About right, yeah.
Yeah. So
The
don't.
wall near the property is just a retaining wall, just to
Right.
level it off.
And the pit is further in from what I saw.
Correct.
So I don't know that. I mean, I understand your issue and I hear it, but I don't think that. I just don't think it's something that you need to really be concerned with as far as. I guess you're concerned that a spark could come out.
Bark, privacy, my trees that I'm going to be putting there. That's all. I'm airing my
Those
concerns.
are privacy trees, though.
And
I'm airing my concerns as a neighbor and a concerned parent of a 6-year-old that I just want to make sure what we're doing will be okay as well, and
Right.
that there's no future problems. And if you don't see a problem now happening, and there is a problem in the future, then what's my recourse?
Here's the thing. We want everyone to enjoy their property to the fullest. And, we have to take into consideration here, where this is located, how far from the border it is. I know that fire pits, we've had a lot of them in the area that are, like this is 15 feet or so from the border. And there haven't been issues. I can't make any guarantees, but what I can say is I think it's reasonable to assume that the trees you're planting there, which you already had dead trees there that never caught fire in 4 years, I think it's reasonable to assume that the ones you're going to be planting would be just as safe. Now, because that's a bushier tree, your nursery is probably going to want to put them a little closer to your property line anyway, so that he doesn't have to keep trimming them right up to the trunk. You know what I mean? So I really think you're going to be okay. And I think you'll both enjoy your property because he can enjoy his fire pit, and the trees you're going to plant with proper placement are going to give you the privacy that you just mentioned you're looking for.
So the
May I
trees-
also say that, Tracy, I'm intending to put a fence, a stockade fence around those two sides of the patio. So that will also add to the privacy. As soon as I can get a contractor to do it with this COVID thing, I've been trying for 2 years. But I do intend to finish it with a fence around it, so that will help with privacy as well.
Okay,
Does that address some of your concerns then, Tracy, if you did that?
some of them, I mean, I am planting the trees. That is going to be happening this spring. So I guess that's what it's going to be.
All right, very good.
I'm sure that Mr. Gisoldi will find it easier to find a contractor to put that fence and that barrier up. I mean, we seem to be hopefully on the tail end of this variant issue. And since all the work is outside, it should be a lot easier to find a contractor.
Yeah, coming into spring. Mhm.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right, so with that, if no one else has any further commentary, do I have a motion to approve this application?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll
I'll
make that
second that.
motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you can follow up with the building department, Mr. Gisoldi. And Vivian, thank you very much for your input. We really appreciate it.
Tracy.
Next up on the application is Brulio Aponte, 614 Ludingtonville Road. Mr. Aponte, are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. So why don't you tell us why you're here tonight and the nature of your application?
Yeah, so I'm applying for a variance for a gazebo that we built over the summer. It's a 10 by 12 hardtop. And we did a stone floor close to the pool.
Okay. I'll open it up to the board as always for commentary. Any issues? The dog has an issue, so why don't we open
All
the
right, listen, I was going to let this go, Mr. Aponte, but my dog has an objection.
So, all right, with that, if no one has any further commentary, do I have a motion to approve this application?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, Mr. Aponte, you can follow. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you. I
Have a
appreciate
good
it.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on the agenda is Carmen Polonia, 65 Robin Drive. All right, Ms. Polonia, I see that you are in audience, so why don't you tell us why you're here this evening?
I would like to make an accessory apartment downstairs. It's mainly going to be for my mom and I would like to, in my garage space, add an additional like 1 bedroom and a living space area. So she can have a place for herself, a more private area, and I can get her a home health aide to help her downstairs.
Okay. With that in mind, I'll open it up to the board as always.
Ms. Poloni, I just have a couple of questions.
Mhm.
So how long have you owned the home there? on Robbie?
It was 4 years this past September. And I tried to do it in the beginning when I first moved here, and I was told I had to wait for 4 years of ownership in order to apply for an apartment.
And that's true. Okay. Now, would this always be owner occupied?
Would this always be what? I'm sorry.
Owner occupied?
My mom, yes. For hopefully, yes.
Well, I mean it's you.
I would love for her to be with us for a very long time.
Not the tenant, but you. You're the owner.
Oh,
of the
yes, 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 yes.
But you would always live upstairs, correct?
Yes, yes, that is correct.
Is there a separate entrance for this apartment?
Yes,
Where is that?
it's on there's a backside.
Okay, on the
in the backside of
house?
the, yes.
Okay.
And then also there's an entrance that we can go down through the main house.
Okay. And how many square feet roughly is the apartment?
So it would be about 750 to 800.
Okay. Okay. All right, those are all the questions that I had. Gordon.
Anyone else, any other board member have any commentary or questions for this application? Okay, there being none, do I have a motion to approve?
So, Gordon, I would say, the only thing I would say is if this is approved, obviously it has to be noted in there that it has to be renewed every 5 years, right? Do we have to note that?
Yeah, and I believe that's also stipulated in the town code, but we can definitely notate that on the application. Do I have a motion to approve this application?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Okay,
Aye.
okay, Ms. Poloni, you can follow up with the building department.
Okay, thank you so much.
Have a great night.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Next up on the agenda is White and Vernon, Horse Pound Road.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Frank J. Smith III, attorney from the Law Office of Schilling and Smith in Carmel, on behalf of the applicants, Ms. Madeline White and Tristan Vernon. They are contract vendees of the property, which is known as tax map number 33-1-58.2. The lot consists of just under 40 acres. It is located in the R40 residential 1 acre zoning district. And tonight we are here seeking relief in the form of an area variance for road frontage. The code requires 100 feet. The subject property provides 51.43 feet, and we are seeking an area variance of 48.57 feet. I have a brief presentation if the board would like to hear it.
Sure, fire away.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm joined this evening by the applicant, Ms. White, and also by our project engineer, Mr. Jack Carell. The lot was created in 2001 by subdivision. The subdivision was approved by the Town of Kent Planning Board and filed in the office of the Putnam County Clerk on December 14th, 2001. The lot does not have the requisite road frontage, but in all respects complies with the dimensional requirements of the R40 zone. The applicants, as contract vendees, have been in contract since November of 2020 to purchase this parcel. And obviously seeking an area variance, this board is well aware of the 5 criteria that must be balanced in order to grant said variance. First, and most importantly, whether granting the variance will cause an adverse change to the neighborhood. Next, whether there will be an adverse impact on the surrounding environmental conditions. Third, whether the variance is substantial. Fourth, whether the need for the variance can be obviated. And lastly, whether the difficulty was self-created. For the following reasons, I contend that this board should grant the relief that is requested. First, there would be no negative impact to the surrounding neighborhood. The applicant will seek a residential use in a residential zone, and other than road frontage, the lot fully complies with the requirements of the R40 district. That's the 1 acre district. This property is just under 40 acres. Next, there would be no adverse impact on the surrounding environment. There would be no increase in population density. And at the time the lot was approved, the proposed house was situated as to not cause environmental issues. Third is the question of substantiality. In this instance, I do not think that is a substantial variance. The town envisioned 50-foot road frontage as the standard in section 77-29, and obviously requires 100 feet in the R40 zone. Being that the applicant proposes a residential use in a residential zone, I argue that the variance is not substantial. Fourth, the need for the variance cannot be obviated. If the variance is not granted, the lot would be rendered landlocked. It's also important to remember that the lot received municipal approvals in 2001. Lastly, the hardship here was not self-created. The applicants have been in contract to purchase the property since November of 2020. As previously mentioned, the lot was approved by the planning board and filed with the county clerk. The applicants had nothing to do with the need for this particular variance. In addition to the 5 criteria, I think there are a few facts that are very important that the board should consider. The first, and I think it bears repeating, is that the lot is on a legal filed subdivision map. New York State Town Law, Section 277-7, along with the Town of Kent Code, Section 66A-34, allow for a waiver of regulations in subdivisions. This was a lot that was legally created at the time. That waiver was requested and the waiver was denied. Also, Section 66A-7 of the Town Code states that each lot created pursuant to the subdivision chapter shall be a buildable lot as defined herein. Part of being a buildable lot requires health department approval, which was recently obtained and Mr. Carell can elaborate upon. Also, as previously mentioned, denying the variance would render the lot landlocked and may constitute a taking. And lastly, when the lot was created, entrance to the lot was envisioned through a 50-foot right-of-way. That entrance is the preferred method, and our project engineer, Mr. Carell, can speak to that in greater detail than I can. Generally speaking, the entrance via Horse Pound Road is already there. Entrance from Nickel Street is completely undeveloped. And at the time this lot was approved, the proposed location of the residence was nearer to the right-of-way as opposed to Nickel Street. And that appears to be due to significant environmental considerations. If we had to enter the property through Nickel Street, there would be far greater impacts to the neighborhood along with the environment. Just generally speaking, there would be tree removal, potential blasting, the moving of water courses, impact to the neighborhood, increased impervious coverage, and driveway length. For the foregoing reasons, I respectfully request that this board grant the relief being sought. And myself, Ms. White, and Mr. Carell are more than happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Mr. Carell, can you elaborate a little bit more on the Board of Health approval?
The Board of Health approval is for a 5-bedroom house. That's it. I mean, we've submitted the plans. It's been approved. The house is situated and the septic is situated in the general areas where they were shown on the subdivision plat that was approved in 2001. If anybody has any specific questions relative to the health department approval, I'll be willing to answer them, but it's a well and a septic system.
And I assume it will be a traditional septic system, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, with that in mind, I'll open it up to the board for commentary.
Mr. Smith, can you just elaborate for me on the right-of-way? How long has that been, and who owns that property where the right-of-way passes to Horse Pound?
Right of way would, Jack, go right ahead.
The right-of-way was owned by the developer originally, and that property that the easement is across is owned by the city of New York.
Okay, and there's no issues that right-of-way remains in effect? There's no,
No, it was on the subdivision map, and in 2001, it had to go through an approval. Well, it had to go through approval of the town of Kent and the health department. Subsequent to the subdivision approval, New York City bought that lot in accordance with their need to buy additional properties in the West Branch watershed.
okay. All right, no, all I'm going to say is, I read the letter, Mr. Schilling's letter, and what you just conveyed, Mr. Smith. Again, I think you're correct. We're looking for an area variance, which was approved, in this century. We get a lot that people are coming and asking for something that was approved long ago. And the requirements have changed. However, in this case, the current request exceeds the requirements for the land, needed to build a home. With that being said, as I look at it, you're really just looking for this variance, the area variance, really for the driveway to get into the property. As you said, it exceeds it, and being over 50 feet, it's certainly wide enough, so I don't have an issue with that myself. Two vehicles can easily, pass each other. So with that, that's all the questions I had, Gordon.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ron. Any other board members have any commentary? Okay, with that in mind, do I have a motion to approve this application?
I'll make that motion.
Do I
I'll
have a
second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you for your time, Mr. Smith, Mr. Carell, and Ms. White, and you can follow up with the building department.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Good night.
Okay, that, I believe that ends our applications. Is there anything else before the board? Vera, do we have any minutes to approve, anything like that?
I think you should have the minutes. If I didn't send them to you, I will.
Yeah, okay, why don't you send the minutes, and then we'll approve them at the next meeting,
Okay.
okay? Is there anything else before the board before we proceed to close this meeting? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
The dog said yes.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
okay, do I have a second? Okay, Brett seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, have a good night, everyone. We'll see you in March.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Good evening.
Take care. Good evening. Have a good night. Thank you.